So I think welcome everyone to this session that we will talk about research and research opportunities within Utopia. We can't see you, but nice to have you all here at this seminar. And this is a digital seminar, and there will be opportunities for questions at the end. So my name is Göran Landberg, and I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of University of Gothenburg, and I'm the lead of WP3 in Utopia 2050, and also lead of Utopia Train. And we also have together here Arnaud, Lefranc. Maybe you could say hi as well, Arnaud.
Hello, everybody. I'm Arnaud Lefranc. I'm Vice President for International Scientific Development at CY Cergy Paris University. And I'm co-lead on WP3 for both EUTOPIA 2050 and the EUTOPIA Train project.
So together we have pretty good control of the research part of Utopia here. And we also have the help of Henrik Lindskog. And I also say, Henrik.
Yeah, my name is Henrik Lindskog. I'm from the Grants and Innovation Office at the University of Gothenburg. So I'm basically assisting Arnaud and Göran in their work on managing these research-related topics in Utopia.
And we are all very happy to have the opportunity to talk to you about the progress in the project and also share some of the sort of opportunities that we now finally have within the research system in Utopia. And let's hope you can see my screen more or less okay. So this is, of course, the session is aimed really at researchers who are interested in future collaboration within Utopia, but it's also really good for everyone because this is just putting the scene for research in the upcoming sort of research strategies in Utopia. So well, I guess it's a good idea to have your microphone muted, and we will definitely go for chat functions regarding questions. So we will be happy to see if you have a question, just write it in the chat. And then at the end of the session, we will go through everything. And as I understand, the session is going to be recorded. Someone else is keeping track of that.
Göran, I don't think that we can see when you move the slides forward. So perhaps, should I try to share mine instead?
I think you might have to share your screen. Okay, I'll stop sharing and then we go for your screen.
See if it looks better.
Okay, something has this is a digital arena. See if you can share the screen. Okay, so let's see. Now I can see, at least I can see it now. So if you
Does it look better?
Yeah, it looks much better. So if we take the next slide, and so that one, yeah. So before we go into details about what we are doing in Utopia regarding research, we just want to take one step back and think a little bit why we are doing that. And I think this can be quite relevant as a researcher, because in some way, as a researcher, you have a question, you want to make sure that you have the optimal ever conditions to do the research. And in some way, all the collaborations that you are doing are normally quite self-forming. You try to find the best candidates or partnership within the university. And if you have a little broader, you can do it in the regions or even in countries. And then it opens up for all the other collaboration in the EU, Europe, and worldwide. And I must say that in many ways, these research collaborations should be sort of self-forming, because you find the one that you think is optimal for what you are doing. But at the same time, it can be quite difficult to find the best partners. So one really good thing with the Utopia Alliance is that we have this opportunity with already established partners. Because if you have that, it is easy to if you have a question, you can go and ask your friends within the Utopia Alliance and try to figure out the best way to collaborate. So that one thing. That does not mean that you should not collaborate with other universities and other researchers, but this is some sort of default setting that can open up for easy way to find partners in this sort of important collaborations. So it's worth mentioning that this is not stopping you for collaborating with Oxford or Stanford. It is just that you have the opportunity to have this big family of universities in Europe. And that's also a little bit what we wanted to test within the European alliances regarding universities. The other thing is, of course, if you have a big critical mass of researchers that are either doing the same thing or not doing the same thing, that is it's a good opportunity to have a critical mass, more qualifications, more infrastructures, things that you can share and so on. So that is one other thing that is important within these European alliances and Utopia. And I think definitely it is really clear from those first years now that when we have been dealing with the various universities, that it is critical to have a big mass of knowledge and experience within different areas. The other side of this is, of course, that Europe want to make sure that we can match really strong international constellations. By forming those European alliances, we'll be able to be more, having a bigger critical mass, and maybe even be possible to match some of those really successful institutes having several Nobel Prizes, several sort of big society impact. So this is, I think, is politically really important for us to make sure that we can have optimal collaborations within Europe. The other part, or the other side of this is sort of collaborative efforts, of course, that there are some challenges. And this is the other idea about utopian testing here, that we should test to work together, because we know that we have some differences in cultural, political context and management. And then that can sometimes be quite difficult. But on the other hand, let us test it and see what we can learn and what are the really big problems. We know that there are some problematic things regarding regulations and HR differences, salary differences, so on. But the idea now with Utopia and the research pilot is really that we should test various systems and come up with the best thing that potentially could overcome those challenges. So in some way, it is quite optimal to be part of the European alliances, because it is okay to fail, actually, because we can come up with a test system and that didn't really work, and then someone else come up with a better one, and that will be for the sort of future way to do this type of research. So that can be a challenge, but it can also be an opportunity and a way forward. We also sometimes come into this discussion about free research versus selected societal challenges. In many ways, I think the research is really important, that you should be free, so you basically can cover all the different aspects. And I don't think it is, you can basically have free research, but you can also make sure that you always work with societal challenges. I can just example for myself, I'm working with breast cancer and cancer research, and even if I'm deep into a gene somewhere in some type of regulatory pathway, I can still say that we are doing this in order to get better treatment for breast cancer patients that could affect the society, having less people dying from that disease and less effect of the families and so on. So it's a matter of putting things in a context, and I think that's not very difficult. So I think we can have free research, but we should also make sure that we work with really important societal challenges that we will come back to. So you can take next slide, Henrik. So the other side of this is, if you just go back a little bit and think about Horizon Europe and the strategies from Europe regarding these things. And they are, of course, extremely interesting in investing in research and innovation to shape our future. And the vision from Jean-Claude Juncker is, of course, a Europe that protects and empowers and defends. And I also mentioned, of course, tackling climate changes. We should make sure that we are achieving those sustainable developmental goals that we have up on the left here. And also a little bit what I mentioned before, we should boost the union's competitiveness and growth. So I think many of those things are spot on in what we are trying to do together within Utopia regarding this sort of long-term research goals. So take the next slide. The other part of this, when we started out to deal with the research within the Utopian Alliance, we had this opportunity to apply for more money within something that we call TRAIN, that I will come back to later. And in the instructions from Europe here, it was really that we should try to address certain things that are called transformation modules here. And the thing is really that these are things that they think are important that we should address within Utopia. And this, I can just mention them because it's good to know what they think is strategically important regarding research and innovation dimension. And once more, this is a sort of testbed thing. They want us to be able to develop common science agendas. That's something that is higher and very important. Of course, it could be optimal if we share resources and infrastructures, because research infrastructures are extremely important, very expensive and quite difficult to run. So it's better to have a big alliances regarding infrastructures. Another important thing from a European context is, of course, to make sure that we strengthen in human capital. And we should have this interesting balanced brain circulation, but that can be. But I think it's important to keep our strong sort of human capital, so we're not losing that constantly. We should also be aware of that we have to mainstream open science practices. We should, of course, engage citizens and society. That is super important to make sure that we communicate with the people in the society and the citizens, of course. The other part of this research and innovation dimension is, of course, reinforcing academia, business collaboration, and knowledge transfer. And then, of course, the last point is really exploring joint structures for common barriers and best practices. So all those things were possible for us to address within Utopia, and was really the basis for an application that we now got granted for research money that I will come back to. So if you take the next slide, Henrik. So with those questions in mind, or opportunities, we basically formed a program that we call TRAIN, which is Transformational Research and Innovation. And this was granted now within the research part of WP3 and Utopia. And what we will be doing here is divided into a certain type of work packages. One work package is really focusing on the common research and innovation agenda, and also the dissemination, because it is important to get this out to the society. And we have also the indication of what universities will be doing what here. And this is UGOT and University of Gothenburg, as well as co-lead Warwick for that one. And then we had 3 work packages at WP2, working with innovation for 21st century. We have open science and societal outreach, and we have human capital in WP4. And this is, of course, things that I definitely want us to address. So that's something which I think is important to be part of the project. We also have this, what we call GLEN, which is the Research and Support Office. And the idea here is to make sure that we optimally work together and have the best ever research, innovation, and legal support for our researchers. We can really learn from each other here, and the idea here is to make sure that they are working together within utopian alliances. So this project is a sort of a second part of our research project within Utopia, and I think this will start next year, and I think this will really be important for testing different variations of research. And as we say on the right side here, I think this will be really putting the scene for the future European research and innovation agenda. Because what we are doing now within these systems is really forming what we think will be the next step. And we discussed that at the executive board meeting. And I think this is something important, that this will be the basis for what we want to do later on. And as always, it's really important to be involved, because we can be part of this as a sort of structure for future European strategies. So that was a little bit about Utopia TRAIN. And if you take the next slide. So this is just a summary of where we are at the moment regarding research-oriented projects in Utopia. We have this Utopia Alliance, and then we have certain things on to the left. We have first start with Utopia 2050, which was the starting point for this sort of research, where we have a work package 3 dedicated to research. And this is, of course, work that we do together with the other educational part and all the other things. And that was a dedicated €1 million area. We will come back to Utopia SIF, which is Science and Innovation Fellows. That was add-on money that Arnaud will tell us a little bit more about. I just mentioned that we got additional money for Utopia TRAIN, which is Research and Innovation Agenda, and we get 2 million more. And we also have ongoing application for doctoral co-fund that I think Arnaud also can mention. So when we're talking about Utopia and research, we are now talking about many different funding sources. And I think that the idea here is really to get more and more money into the system, which will make us having more and more opportunities for all you parts to get being partners of the research part, and also get funding for it. So even if it's not that much money as a starting point, I think this is really a start for getting much more funds on board. And this is of course important. So if we take the next slide, we will just give a couple of examples of activities that you might be able to be part of, or at least you should be aware of. And some of them will also be a possibility to apply for funding. The first one that we will tell you a little bit about is building Utopia Research Networks, which is an activity that was started out in this WP3 activity. And the idea here is really to organize network meetings that we should identify how specific challenges could be collectively addressed. And also not only addressed, but also making sure that they will be funded. So that's identifying problems and identify different ways to get funding for that. And the idea here is to get some type of roadmap. So we will be able to say, this is the way we should address that specific challenge and the funding opportunities. And the plan for that is more or less a two-step process. The first one is really to have workshops where we have senior management from every university and also some more expertise areas in that. And during that meeting, we will identify specific challenges and say that this is something that we should collectively address. And then the next part of that is to organize research network meetings for the selected challenge. And as we all know, we have some issues within our research package with the COVID situation, problems that we can't really physically meet. So we will have the digital meetings that we can have, but we have decided to wait with those research networks meeting until we can actually meet in sort of an easy way. But we have had the first thematic subject, and we had the first discussion about welfare and inclusion. That was in September. And what we will do now later on is having this research network meeting for that. And then 2021 and 2022 will be coming up 5 more thematic subjects where we will deal with materials, we will deal with AI, health, sustainability, culture, and heritage. And as you can see, this is quite broad, and hopefully there will be areas that can be relevant for many different faculties within universities. So we make sure that everyone can in some way have a chance to be part of things. We have to remember that it's still a pilot activity, so will not be possibilities for every different research subjects, but at least we should have a better chance to be part of things here. So that was an example of something that will happen, and I think will be opportunity for some of you to be part of those research networks. Okay, I think we can take next slide, Henrik. So now we come to 3 points, which is basically more into Arnaud's special areas. I think I leave those slides to you, Arnaud, if that's fine. And then we could continue later on.
Yes, the next couple of slides are about a series of schemes that we are currently implementing to help facilitate bottom-up research collaborations across the various universities of EUTOPia. So one first scheme is the research mobility program, which is meant to support short research stays of faculty members, so that includes postdoctoral fellows of the 6 universities who would like to travel to another EUTOPia university to start developing joint research projects. So there's specific funding for that scheme, except that the current sanitary conditions are not very favorable to the implementation of this program, but the instruments are there, and we have opened the possibility to apply. It's a bit empty at the moment, but I'm sure it's going to prove its relevance as soon as the health situation improves. I was saying that this program was open to faculty members of the 6 universities. We have a dedicated doctoral mobility program currently under development that will also support research mobility for doctoral students across the universities of EUTOPia. And there's a last possibility to host some external international partners on visit trips to EUTOPia, working on a project that involves several members of EUTOPia universities. Can we go to the next slide, Henrik, please? So the second initiative that is also currently under development is the EUTOPia Young Leaders Academy. The idea is to train train and support a new generation of research leaders coming from the 6 universities of EUTOPia to support them in their career development by doing two things. The first one is the type of research leadership skills that you'd find in standard career development programs at that stage of the career. So it's about helping them acquire leadership skills, empowering them, and allowing them to develop their high research potential. The second aspect of that program is to sort of incubate a cohort across which we would try to favor interdisciplinary exchange, in particular in connection with the key societal challenges that Göran has just mentioned. So this again has been impacted by the COVID situation. It's scheduled to open for selection in spring 2021, and we're expecting the activities of the Young Leaders Academy to start in the fall of next year. And this program bridges the EUTOPIA 2050 and the EUTOPIA Train programs and should host a total of about 24 fellows. On the next slide, you will find some information on the program that is already up and running, at least in the call for application phase, which is the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship Program. So this is a postdoctoral fellowship program that is being co-funded by the EU. It will run for 5 years and hire about 80 fellows in total across four waves. A few words on the specificities of this program, and this is way more than a program that would secure funding for salary for 80 postdoctoral fellows conducting their research independently of one another. It's really a research development program that would offer very good conditions for developing new and innovative research ideas, but also supporting career development of young research leaders. By providing them with a variety of training sessions in disciplinary skills, in non-disciplinary skills, also by trying to promote innovation and impact awareness among cohorts of emerging young researchers. The program is focusing on 5 key research areas that cover a broad spectrum of disciplines, from experimental science to social sciences. So they are listed here on the slides. I won't repeat them, but it's probably important to understand that these key societal challenges are sort of hubs of interdisciplinary knowledge and interdisciplinary exchange. I should also add to that beyond the fact that those areas primarily speak to disciplines in sciences, experimental, formal, and social sciences, the program is also open to young researchers in the humanities with particular research project tapping into one of these five research areas. And the last and most significant thing to highlight about this program is that this is an integrated EUTOPIA program. It's probably the first postdoctoral fellowship program that is supported by a European university, and it will allow fellows to be exposed to a very broad and high quality research community, starting with extended mentoring from at least 2 universities of EUTOPIA. The fellows will be hosted by a particular EUTOPIA university, but will also be co-hosted for 2 to 6 months by a research group from another European university in EUTOPIA. So it's really a gateway to the EUTOPIA research community. So the program is up and running now. We've launched it in the middle of October. You have a deadline for application till 11th of January, and I would encourage all of you attending the session today to spread the word and relay the information towards interested possible applicants. On the next slide, no, the next slide is not for me. So if you stay on that slide, I should add a couple of words. So if we, can you go back to SIF, please? So what you can see is that the different elements I've just presented are sort of bricks to allow integration and collaboration across EUTOPIA's scientific community. There's probably one missing brick if you think of the fact that the Young Leaders Academy is looking at people sort of 2 to 10 years after PhD. The SIF is a postdoctoral program. We're missing an element for doctoral students, but in fact, it's already partly present. We have a program called the EUTOPIA PhD co-tutel call for application that has been running for, I think, 3 years already, is going to reopen this year. That's a first way into the implementation of an EUTOPIA training program at the doctoral level. And there's an additional co-fund application that has been submitted last September to get resources to implement a sister program to the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship Program, which we call the EUTOPIA Planetary Wellbeing Doctoral Program, with the objective of training 40 PhD students making significant contributions in the area of sustainable development that would be jointly supervised by multiple partners across the EUTOPIA Alliance. So that's a summary for the variety of initiatives we're launching to support your researcher-to-researcher collaboration or lab-to-lab collaboration. And I hope you submit many interesting projects to these funding schemes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arnaud. I think this is a fantastic examples that we actually will be able to provide support in different programs, and this is both the postdoc and the upcoming doctoral and the young leaders are a substantial contribution to what we want to do here. So excellent, and it's great to have application deadlines coming up soon. So before we take questions for that, we should just mention some other activities. So if we take the next slide, Henrik. And that is also something that we think is important to do when we are forming these type of alliances, and really to keep track of what are the beneficial things when actually working together. And one way to do that is to do a SWOT analysis, and that's something that we are doing in the work package 3, and we will do even more in the train program. And this is just very preliminary findings, but I think it could be worth mentioning that we have been looking at the sort of collective capabilities and see what we really can do together. And we have been focusing on these SDG goals that you have on the right with the different colors here. And the analysis is really to form some sort of good data mining to know what we are good and bad at, so we can take sort of important decisions regarding what we should do and what we should not do. And the preliminary findings is really that if we now look at Utopia alliances together, we have 6 different universities. We really offers a complete platform for conducting research related to SDGs. And we're basically covering most of the aspects of the SDGs, which is good to know, because then we can say that we can focus on this sort of broad aspect. And together we have the capabilities in more or less every different directions of these type of challenges. But on the other hand, it's also very obvious that we will have some areas that we are more strong in. We just some preliminary findings here that we are really good at SDG 3, good health. We are good at SDG 13, climate actions, which is spot on for what we heard from Jean Janker before. We are definitely have some opportunities to be better or slightly weak in SDG 1, no poverty, SDG 4, quality education. And we can either see that as the weak ones might be an opportunity to be better, or alternatively we could even get even more funding in these strong areas. We should say that but we are basing this is on the publications in the different areas and the citations in the different sort of publications, and also looking at the trends regarding what are we going better and better for each year, or if it's actually going down. And the beauty with it is that we are looking at all the universities together. So together we are something regarding all these SDGs. So the other thing in the SWOT analysis that we, by continuing to focus on mobility and training program for young researchers, I think we have the potential to really support young research, but also attract international talents that could increase this sort of strong research side that we have within the alliances. And I think this is also a good start for sort of a long-lasting, sustainable Utopia research network where you have more younger research coming in, and we of course like to keep the older ones as well. The other part is that we, of course, a strong side with that we have identified, and it's quite obvious that we will be able to successfully attract funding for both mobility and training programs. As Arnaud mentioned here, we have been successfully been able to get co-fund applications granted, which I think is really a starting point for getting even more applications and more money into the system. So I think we have a strong, good opportunity to together get more money into the system, which is excellent. And also really good to know that we are pretty good in covering the SDG goals. And I think we will present a more in-depth analysis of this SWOT work at probably the next Utopia week, maybe, Henrik, if we can sort things out. But this is part of something that we are doing within the research part, so we know exactly what we should focus on and not focus on. If we take the next slide. So before we take the questions, just some final sort of notes. I think we are really happy, and we should congratulate us that we will be part of those European alliances or European universities and having Utopia, because I think this is critical to be part of this development, and I think we can see much more happening in these type of alliances system in the future. And it's good to know that research and innovation will develop, and I think there will be more opportunities for financing and involvement in the future, so that we can more or less see this as a starting point for much more activities or much more funded activities later on. It's important to remember that this will not be the only alliance. As we know, we will still able to form regular collaborative efforts, but I think it would be excellent to have this default alliance for especially young researchers looking for collaborators for certain type of applications or specific challenges. So I think it's great to have a big family of researchers and opportunities within Utopia. We have said that we will have an initial focus on younger researchers. This is, of course, quite important when we're talking Europe 2050, so they at least will be in the system in some way. So I think it's easy to foster the new generation of researchers that we should work together and have this sort of broader view of university and alliances. So that's the reason for that, and I think that that's something that at least Europe liked when we applied for this thing. We should have a broad scope. We have been talking about planetary well-being, as Arnaud mentioned, and it is important to have opportunities for all faculties. And then maybe we can't cover all the aspects during this pilot phase, but it is definitely something broad we should have here. And then final message is really keep an eye on the progress, because we have sort of slight difficulties now with the mobility issues and the COVID situation, but we will try to update as much as possible, so you will be able to apply for various type of monies and also be involved in a different type of activities that we are planning, and that we basically hopefully will be up and running during after Christmas sometime. So I think I will stop here, Henrik, and we have some time for the questions, and I think at least some questions have popped by here in the chat function. So maybe, Henrik, if you look at the questions and spell them out loud, and then we can see who could answer them.
Yeah, we have a question regarding where to find more information about the Young Leaders Academy in general, I think, but also at the University of Gothenburg. Arnaud, do you want to say something about in general?
Yes, there's actually two questions on the Young Leaders Academy. So one about information and one about the target group for the Young Leaders Academy. So information on the Young Leaders Academy is not available yet because we're finalizing the details of the scheme, and it should be published in the very beginning of 2021. We'll spread the information on not only on the scheme itself, but on the selection and application procedure for the scheme, which should be run by the various universities. So as many of the initiatives that we launch at the level of EUTOPIA, this is relayed and retransmitted by the research administration of each university. Regarding the target group for the young leaders, the sort of the preferred target group is junior faculty members of the universities. It can stretch a little bit on both ends to include some postdocs and some not entirely junior faculty members. Let's put it this way. But that's the target.
And I guess we have been looking at similar programs that are real, for example, have in the University of Gothenburg, and it can be quite competitive to get these type of positions. But I think as Arnaud mentioned, that type of range of people should definitely try to apply for this if possible. Okay, Henrik, I'm not sure if I can't see any more questions, but
no.
So
I can post the link to the University of Gothenburg website where we describe the program.
Now I think we have one more question about the postdoc funding. Maybe for you, Arnaud, can you see that?
Yeah. So that's an answer to Leo van Grunsven. So I think your question is about the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship. So that's the only postdoc funding that we give right now. So the question is about whether postdoc already working at one of the partner university get priority above sort of external applicants, and the clear answer to that is no. There's no priority given. Every applicant, whether they are internal to the EUTOPIA University or external applicants, they will be on equal footing, and they will be judged by the quality of their application. That's an essential criterion that's constantly repeated at the EU policy level to favor transparency and meritocracy in the selection of applicants, and that's one important condition to favor researcher mobility at the European level. So this being said, it's also an opportunity to emphasize the fact that the Science and Innovation Fellowship is submitted to the Marie Sklodowska-Curie mobility rule, which means that if you've been working in a particular country for more than 12 months during the last 36 months, you cannot apply to a funded position in that particular country. So let's say you've been in Sweden for 2 years. In the last 3 years, you cannot apply to a position at Gothenburg, but you are very welcome to apply to a position having a host institution in one of the 5 other EUTOPIA universities.
I think there's a question about this mandatory secondment as well regarding SIFs. Is from Cornelia. Can you see that?
Yes. So there's 2 types of secondments in the SIF program. The first one is an internal secondment, and it's related to the sort of the co-supervision or co-hosting of the program by another EUTOPIA university. So let's say that you choose to be hosted by Barcelona UPF as a first choice, then you would also have to go on a secondment with another EUTOPIA research group. For instance, you would you could choose to go to VUB, and that's for a duration of minimum 2 months and at most 6 months. There's an additional form of secondment, which is also mandatory, which is an external secondment that could be either with a non-academic partner. So basically, an example could be that you have ideas for applying your research to a particular industrial process, and you could go for a secondment with a firm that is relevant to the application. An alternative could be an international secondment with an international academic institution outside of EUTOPIA. And this secondment has a mandatory duration of at least 2 weeks, so that could be relatively short and at most 3 months.
Arnaud, I think there's a question also about if you're already in a PhD program, if you then can apply for this doctoral program. I think this was from Misa. Can you see that? The third question from. Do you have information about Arnaud or Henrik?
So my answer is going to be the same generic answer as I use for the Young Leaders Academy, where finalizing the scheme. There's going to be, of course, because the budget is limited, there's going to be a limited number of doctoral mobility that we may be able to support. The idea is to support research, mobility expenses for a few weeks, probably in the ballpark of 3 to 6 weeks of mobility compensation for a number still to be decided between 5 and 6 students, PhD students per EUTOPIA university. As soon as the scheme is finalized, of course, we will spread the information across the EUTOPIA universities, and we will make the information available on a website that I'm sure you are all completely familiar with, and this is your top bookmark. That's the EUTOPIA main webpage. So already there you have the information on the SIF program, you have information on the researcher mobility program, and as soon as it is ready, we will upload the information on both the Young Leaders Academy and doctoral mobility programs.
Yeah. Thanks, Arnaud. There is also one big question from Raphael here about this sort of concern. The big concern from every researcher is, of course, to get some type of firm position or permanent position. And the question is if we are planning to do that within Utopia, and if there will be this opportunity to get. And I think we have to remember that we're still in the pilot phase here and testing, and we're testing on the more junior levels. So at the moment, I don't think we're planning to have that type of sort of real position, but you never know what will happen with these alliances. So I know we talked a little bit at the executive board about the different opportunities to get more, the sort of next phase and next level. And one thing we will do within Train is really to trying to figure out the best way that we can work together. So at least from my side, I think we don't have it at the moment, and we will see what will happen. Arnaud, do you have any comments about? I mean, I guess that's where we are at the moment.
Same message. I mean, this is nothing concrete. There's nothing concrete yet. There's definitely an interest in considering the possibility of promoting hiring somewhere beyond the level of each institutional university, maybe at the full EUTOPIA level, maybe through partnerships within EUTOPIA, but there's nothing concrete yet, unfortunately, at the moment.
But I think this is good. It's good to have different ideas for the future. There's also a mobility question. If you can get mobility program if you're not part of the 6 universities.
So the answer is yes. So there's two tracks in the researcher mobility program. One is for researchers of the 6 universities, and another one is for international partners. And the idea is that, it's going to be incoming mobility inside one of the 6 EUTOPIA universities. The idea is that such project could be funded if they are sort of EUTOPIA relevant. And clearly, if one researcher from CY is going to work with a colleague from the University of Gothenburg, it's de facto an EUTOPIA relevant mobility. If one researcher from outside is going, let's say, to VUB, work collaborating with VUB, it makes the EUTOPIA dimension less obvious because it only involves one single EUTOPIA member. So the idea for international researchers being supported on that mobility scheme, that they are enrolled, they are developing a project that involves hopefully not a single EUTOPIA partner, but at least 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. There is also a specific question about if you're on an assistant professor position, is it possible to apply for SIFs? Depending on the regulations for the sort of postdoc position. Do you know that, Arnaud?
Off the top of my head, but this is to be double checked. I would say that one condition is that you should not have a permanent position when you apply. But this is to be clarified. I encourage Danielle Baturina, who's asked the question, to get in touch with the contact list for the contact email for the EUTOPIA SIF program for clarification.
I think a general comment here is really we will try to have as much as possible on the internet, so you can get questions for most of the sort of general questions. Alternatively, you have to contact us via the various system. Okay, I will contact. That's good, Daniel. So let's see here. I guess as many questions are really concerning so sort of practical details about the upcoming programs, there will be more information where we haven't got sort of money for the Code to Tell program yet, Arnaud, or the extended one. So there will be more information, but the SIFs are definitely ongoing and so on. So and any other issues, Henrik? Have you popped up any? Okay. If not, maybe we should say that we are happy to have had this seminar, and I think it's excellent that we actually will be able to have this different type of positions. Arnaud, go ahead.
Well, actually, I have a question to the audience, because we probably have at least 5 minutes left. And well, of course, it's not a live seminar, so it makes interactions much more difficult. But one question to you would be, okay, we've described a variety of objectives and some schemes for undertaking progress towards these objectives. My question to you is there any particular scheme that you think would be very useful and that we have completely missed and that could still be able to implement given the constraints on our action? So basically, we've talked about sort of chairs that would be funded at the Utopia level. That's a nice idea, but in the current context, it's not doable. But if there's something meaningful that you think should be done, well, let's please put it in the chat, because I'm sure that could help us also in thinking about how we can support the emergence of collaborations across the researchers.
That's excellent idea, Arnaud. And I think if the chat is closed, we can always mail Henrik Lindskog if you have any idea, because we are in the phase that we are trying and testing different things, and we will happy to get more input. We're also very happy to put this down to research and not only administrative management level, which is a little bit the starting point of everything. So now we're finally getting close to you, which we appreciate. Let's see, 2076 SIFs question from Cornelia.
So 20 this year, 76 in total.
Yeah. Okay. Any other things? Otherwise, I think we will thank you very much for a nice session, and I think we close it then. So bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining.
Bye-bye.